very warm welcome, Emerging Technology Conclave. Dr. Mitra, drive through Calcutta and just looking around over the last few years, the state looks a lot different today than it did a few years ago, right? I think if you just look at if you drive past Rajarhat, which I'm guessing a lot of you all did by coming here, you'll see the kind of development that you only sort of resonate with Gurgaon or Bangalore or maybe even BKC. What we see with the Bengal Global Business Summit, from what we heard your IT secretary speaking about yesterday, which was on IoT, blockchain, there was a Center for Excellence in Cybersecurity, which you've started with IIT Kalyani. And even from the numbers, right? GDP growth 17-18 for West Bengal was 9.1%. India's GDP growth is 7.9%. I believe the year before that was 7.9 for West Bengal, and India was 7.1. So let me start with asking you for the fundamental question: does the stereotype of West Bengal, was that a difficult one to change? Has it changed? And how long did it take to sort of get the engine started?
I think that's a wonderful question. The one who would be able to answer this in a holistic manner, like the CEO, CFO issue, is Mamta Banerjee herself. Because she led the government. I serve as a member of her cabinet. And many vision elements she had experienced because she was a 7-time member of parliament. Most people don't know that. And she was also cabinet minister in the center. And I happened to work with her when she was in Minister of Railways. And she produced a book which no one reads because it was presented to Parliament called Vision 2020 when she was Railway Minister, in which I helped and worked with a team that developed it. So perhaps she could answer your question better. But yes, I must say that when we came to office, the state was in a mess. 34 years of communist rule. There were sociological, psychological and economic problems of the state. 57,000 units had fled the state. So perhaps the largest capital flight that you've seen in a democracy anywhere. The work culture had been converted to the notion of Gherav and Bandhs. So psychologically, again, there was something very, a major shift that happened relative to the 50s and 60s. When Dr. B.C. Roy was Chief Minister of West Bengal, he envisioned Durgapur, where you have the Durgapur steel plant. He envisioned Kalyani, which, as you mentioned, it's a university. My father happened to be a member of the legislature from that area. So a personal experience in how his vision was translated later. Chittaranjan coach factory, B.C. Roy fought to keep it in West Bengal, and the wall of the factory is where Bihar began. He was able to fight with Jawaharlal Nehru and keep it because he wanted growth. So there were many visionary things that were done in the 50s, 60s, undone in a way. For example, for 17 years, the communists removed English from the curriculum. So we have a West Bengal cadre, very bright physics, mathematics, chemistry, young people who suffered the shortcomings. You know what we have done? We are sending 25 officers at a time to Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy in Singapore or Oxford. So one group goes to Oxford, one goes to Lee Kuan Yew School. Why? To open their minds. You see, it's not only the language issue. They close their minds. So this is a mind opener. And they love it because they have not experienced something like this. In fact, the next course I'm requesting, if they can bring Mahabubani, who wrote that book on Can Asians Think, come and talk to our officers, because that will be another dimension of opening up their mind. By the way, we also have introduced our officers to take continuous training and engagement with the British Council. They have 6 levels of linguistic skills. They take a test and they place you. And our people are so excited. We've trained over 250 in British councils. So it is not just the economy, but it's a whole gamut of psychological, social, ideological. Ideology was, something that was based on class struggle, but permeated into lumpinization of the state in the name of class struggle or whatever. So I think the change has been huge. The challenge was huge, and it took the first 2 years. I think it took us to get onto the groundwork where Mamata Banerjee started pushing. Give you an example. The year that we came to office, the year before that, the man days lost was, I think, 76 or 78 lakh person days due to strikes. Now it took 2 years to bring that to 5,000 and some 55 or so man days for the year, and within the 4th year it was 0, and it's persisted to be 0. No bunds. Whenever any other party calls a bund, the attendance of government people in the office rises from 85% to 94%. Because if they don't come to work, they lose their salary and they get 1 day less in their retirement. It's not easy to do. 5.5 lakh employees of the state, employees and teachers and others put together. So I would say the other interesting part of your question is, which relates to finance, is what is it that we will focus on? And we focused on capital expenditure in our budget. So capital expenditure increased by 8.5 times. From 2,200 crores, we are now close to 20,000 crores. Which means roads, schools, colleges, physical asset creation. Now, you see, sometimes, Korea went ahead and built power capacity, which the whole world said is absurd, will never be able to use it. But they used it. We have a same example in the case of hospitals. We created about 37 done, I think 40 super specialty, multi-super specialty hospitals at the subdivisional level. Now, who did it? Shapurji, Palanji and L&T through competitive bidding. So they are super inside. Now, question was, where will the doctors come from? Chicken and egg issue. Now we are beginning to get doctors. We have advertised all over India, and some of the doctors find the facilities so good that they're willing to go there. So whether the Kanya Shri program you know about, other states are emulating. The Punjab minister came here quietly, and I never took him to the media. He came here, why? He wanted to see whether he could emulate excise model of e-based excise. Of course, we got the highest award in e-taxation in India, which nobody knows about, nobody writes about. We got the highest award in integrated financial management system. Nobody writes about the fact that there is no check, forget cash. There's no check in our treasury. It's completely digital. So you're talking about technology. Completely digital. Even everybody's pension, wherever it is, digitally passed on from the treasury directly, for which the central government was kind enough to give us the highest award. So those are fundamental changes of capital expenditure and plan expenditure. So what as a result happened is, we got the utility of the Keynesian multiplier. And those of you who are economists here know that Keynesian multiplier in India, if you form an asset, is 4 times impact on the GDP. It's exactly 4 times over time. So our GDP has gone from 4.5 lakh crores to 10.5 lakh crores. Our claim is 11.5 lakh crores. The centre has agreed to 10.5 lakh crores. So what I would say on a rounded sense is, the challenge required multifarious changes like CEOs and CFOs in their own spaces face. And that is what ultimately, in about 5 years' time, it began to show. 14,000 kilometers, 5 years, when we completed 5th year, 14,000 kilometers of roads inside the village. Now to a middle class person it makes no sense, because we don't understand the village. When you go there, you will understand the inside the village is as important as the highway. The inside the village, third stage is concrete roads. Yesterday I was in a cement conference reported today in the papers. I said, look, in my one panchayat, I have built 340 concrete roads, which means huge stimulation to the cement industry. So that little person is so delighted they can reach their little homes during monsoons, which they could not before, especially the elderly. So my question is, my submission to you is, it's a huge holistic change which perhaps has not been seen in too many places in the world. From a 34 years of a communist regime with its ideological, psychological and economic business approach which had killed the state. To resuscitate that, you see, you can build a building easily, you can build a hospital easily, but to change the mindset of the people is very, very tough indeed.
So Dr. Mitra, the question that comes to me now after hearing this is that, this seems to also be, some credit also must be going to the West Bengal citizen for wanting things differently, right? And at one point, I guess, the whole Singur issue with the land, the Tata land sort of claim back, that whole episode was something that I guess somebody said will play out well politically also. That, I guess, is not what the citizen of West Bengal wants anymore. Is that true?
I think on the Singur issue, what was most interesting and which will remain a historic fact, Mamata Banerjee came to the agitative point in Singur when one section of farmers refused to accept checks from the government. They came to her and said, we are there forcibly taking away our land. And the compensation they are giving is not good enough for us. It's not livelihood related. We are a 4-crop area. Singur is unique, that whole region. You have 4 crops in the year. So, and very close to Kolkata. So vegetables, all this doesn't require any warehousing. They came to her and said, they are forcing us. Now, if you look back and ask yourself, was her agitation right or wrong? The best answer is the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court of India gave a judgment a few years ago, 2 years ago, saying not only was the land acquisition illegal, 1,000+ acres, and they said within 90 days state has to give the land back to the farmers, breaking whatever there is. And that was a huge task. So I would say that what she was vindicated by the fact that this happened. And what is most interesting is, I got a call from a friend, from a Japanese friend who has been coming to Kolkata for the last 2 years, saying that he has built a solar-based, temperature-controlled warehouse in Singur, which has no electrical connection. It's completely solar-based, new technology. Huge warehouse for vegetables from that area so that they can comfortably travel. It's the same Singur where a Japanese guy goes and makes this major investment. That's only one example. You have several others who have gone to Singur. So psychologically, yes, there was the question that you've asked. But what is most interesting is that Tatas not only did not leave West Bengal, they have the largest growth of any group in the state. TCS today employs 40,000 people in Kolkata. They've taken a piece of land, just applied for it, and we have agreed. Another 20,000 they will have, which is much bigger than Bengaluru. But no newspaper or media has ever carried this information. So I urge you to consider, at least carry the information to the technology people. Cognizant employs 18,000 people in Kolkata, now expanding. So if you look around, Capgemini is come. Back office, entire back office at HSBC Bank is in Kolkata. People don't know that. So what I would like to say is, on a Silicon Valley hub of West Bengal that Mamata Banerjee announced, you'll be happy to know that 100 acres was put on offer 74 acres were taken within less than 90 days. So Geo is now opening a huge place, and it will have artificial intelligence and Internet of Things in that center, and they've taken 40 acres of land. No one knows about it. But so whether you go from that end to the Tata Hitachi, hardcore manufacturing by Tatas. Well, it is 82% Hitachi now. What are they making? Largest enterprise making mining equipment. So we had a mining exhibition here by one of the chambers. They could not move one machine because it required 22-wheel truck to come into the city. So we had to make special arrangement dead of night to have the truck come in, no bridge to be used so that that kind of a heavy machine can damage a bridge. So nobody knows that Tata Hitachi is expanding. Tata Metallics is expanding. Beautiful company. So there are Tatas perhaps employ, aside from TCS, another 5,000 people in West Bengal. So Tatas haven't gone away. That particular incident, unfortunately, forcible acquisition of land. Now that started happening in UP. People went up in arms. In Noida, it happened in Maharashtra. So this sensitivity, the political economy of the country has to be remembered. Otherwise, the activity will not be sustainable. You may do it here by force, but you can't do it on a sustainable basis.
But the idea that it plays well politically, all the development, because all over the world, good development normally doesn't necessarily equate to good politics or to good votes. I think a large part of that has to do with the fact that you had nowhere to go but up. I mean, you had started at a very low base in terms of all growth. Of all the fantastic e-governance and technology initiatives that the government is doing, it requires a different kind of culture in the government to work with technology companies, like the Microsofts of the world, like the Cifis of the world. How difficult has that been, just to interface with these tech giants? And
I think that's an extremely good point, because I picked a gentleman who was Commissioner Commercial Taxes. He was not even Principal Secretary to the government. I requested Mamata Banerjee that I want to take him as my Finance Secretary. And he will not be Principal Secretary, he is not yet senior enough. First time in the history of West Bengal, a secretary became Finance Secretary. Finance Secretary means powerhouse. Why did I do that? I found in him a bureaucrat with a change intention in mind, which I saw him do in the taxation sector. Now, what happened is, how did we engage the tech companies? We absolutely transparently and competitively bid it out. Where we did not want to bid out because it would take more time or it had other constraints, we gave it to NIC. I must say, NIC in West Bengal has done practically competitive work to the private sector in some areas that they took on. So you had TCS winning a major contract. You name it, the major companies came to Bengal because the ticket size of that reform was so large that they would make money. So I would say what made it happen is completely transparent, competitive bidding where nobody could raise a finger. They were comfortable that nobody is going to ask for a bribe. Nobody is going to leverage or have any rent seeking. So they settled in beautifully, went into competition with each other and accepted the winner. So that is why working with the tech companies has been so easy, and that's why we were able to do some of this. Imagine, integrated financial management system is today completely in a different dimension in the country. Nobody ever used e-Kuber portal of Reserve Bank of India. It was sitting there. West Bengal came up and said, in order for us to become totally digital, we need to use e-Kuber. First state to use it. Without it, honestly, we may not have been able to take that leap forward along with our tech companies. So I would say, what the tech companies need is first transparency. They are sure there's no shenanigan here, there is no spin here, there is no rent seeking here. So initially, they were apprehensive. Once they saw the tendering process, they became comfortable. And with it, they started flocking to Kolkata to compete for orders, even in construction. Milan Mela, where all these exhibitions used to take place, the heart of Kolkata, when the Ma Bridge takes a turn, it's right at the bottom. We have torn it down, and it's going to be the most modern, iconic place that you will know for exhibitions of that size. 18 acres is not like, in Cologne, Messé. It'll be fantastic. Now, do you know that 7 people applied for that tender? 4 people qualified, top of the line. And one of them got it and nobody raised a finger. I personally supervised that process for transparency. So whether it is in construction, whether in technology, this is a government that the entrepreneurs know will have no play. And that is a first requirement for you to attract good competitive people who will then deliver on the ground.
Thank you. So Dr. Mitra very kindly agreed to take a few questions. So since we're talking about technology, so many techies in the room, and so any questions, we can just see a show of hands. Any comments, questions that are there in the audience? Anybody?
I'm happy to answer questions on the stuff that you were discussing, artificial intelligence or blockchain or this or that. I'm not an expert in it, but I can give you only a kind of a semi-ignorant answer to your question and its applications to finance. I ran a small institution called Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, which when I came away, it had a small, very small, for you guys it's very, very small, a budget of 120 crores. And I introduced complete reform in the financial sector. Not just Tally, but we went to Norwegian and didn't have a great experience. So I learned on the job a little bit of technology. So I'm open to any questions. Yeah.
Please introduce yourself and ask. I think it's on.
Thank you, sir. This is a great insight for us who are sitting outside Bengal.
Could you please introduce yourself?
Agarwal. I am a CFO for Eminent. Sir, a question to you that the reforms and the technology things you are talking about, where the leadership has a great vision, the government, the people like you, but what about the below the line people? Because the machinery has to work properly, right? The captain can only give a signal, but the entire ecosystem, the agility of the people, because 34 years under the one arm and sudden of all, and if you see government cases, the people are not transitioning very fast. They are the same people. So how do you do that leveraging, learning, unlearning part or the adaptability part in the current technology point of view?
I think it's a big challenge. But let me submit to you that there are 3 channels through which we work. One is the administrative machinery. We as middle class people perhaps don't know that if you go to a village area, very important functionary there is the block development officer, BDO. BDO, by the way, is the first posting of the state service officer. Now, what the Chief Minister did, which is an experiment, which now other Chief Ministers are coming and saying we must do, she goes to a district, she goes to all districts within the 6 months and then repeats it. What happens in that is an administrative review meeting. In that, the smallest guy, the BDO, or even below BDO, whoever is there, right up to the Chief Secretary, and all ministers concerned and members of parliament from her party who are elected there, or any other party, and MLAs are there. What she does is, she has a list, projects completed. And they get up, whoever was responsible for the bureaucracy, and they get a big clap. And by the way, this is televised. So every person who wants to watch is watching this. And it's dangerous because, you may be on the wrong side. So first is the green, then she has another set of projects which are in process. There she is ruthless in saying, look, timeline is not acceptable. Who is responsible? The responsibility is assigned and declared right there. I want this finished by this time. Then comes the third one. Not done. That's in red. Whoever it may be, however senior, publicly is told that people want to know that you haven't done it. This resulted in one channel, which is the governmental machinery, which completely changed the process. For example, we have given 400 square feet in every panchayat office for a bank to open. Why? Because they said brick and mortar costs us money. I said, okay, here is your brick and mortar. You bring your technology and you open. So that's one channel. The second, of course, is the political channel. Those who are elected representatives of the people. She takes regular meetings with them on implementation in their areas. We have leveraged that. You know, like I am responsible for my constituency. And I will be held responsible why this road did not get completed. Or this technological process didn't happen. And the third area, of course, is a vast amount of intelligentsia that West Bengal has. Many of them are engaged with us in bringing objective inputs of where things are not working. So you're right, among the younger people, of course, there's a natural tendency for technology. We don't have to guide them, they are with their smartphones and so on, they're already into the technology culture. But it has taken time, but what is great is, with multiple interventions from multiple channels, I think slowly we have gone to the point where people are friendly in accepting. You know, for example, the small businesses never registered for VAT. We made VAT registration compulsory electronically, and digitized signature was put into the market with a subsidy. Nobody came for subsidy because market responded and digitized signature became cheaper. Entire VAT registration was by digital process. Officer gave you the certificate back on DMAT format. You know, when the officer it takes time to give you a certificate, you know what's going on underneath. Any compensation goes digitally. And I can tell you that was not easy. So, as a result, it seeped into the lowest strata of business and many common people that this is the new world. You better adjust and you will prosper. So it is tough. But Mamata Banerjee took that challenge. We all supported her. We have a long way to go to compete with the best in the world. But the direction is very clear.
Thank you, sir. Great insight.
Please.
Yeah, my name is Rashmi Joshi. I work for Castrol as CFO. It was great to hear from you that all the payments made in the government are digitized, so I didn't know about it. It's great to know that. I just had a question on blockchains, and is there anything that the government is doing to enable blockchains further, or does it require a kind of common framework so that it is applied consistently throughout? So it will be helpful to know from you.
Well, your question is very pertinent, ma'am. You'll be happy to know that second week of December, we have a blockchain congress in West Bengal. And we have got about 8 people coming from abroad, including countries which have very advanced blockchain technology and application. So what we are looking at is, where exactly can you apply blockchain? I mean, of course, you can apply blockchain in your financial world. And I'll read out one little thing from The Economist. A programming language that allows users to write more sophisticated smart contracts. This creating invoices that pay themselves when a shipment arrives, or share certification, which automatically send to their owners dividends if profits reach a certain level. That's one dimension of blockchain. To me, the other dimension is land records. We have massive amount of land records. We are looking at whether it is possible to use blockchain so that you have not reversible data, but encrypted into different boxes. So we look at that. Health area we are looking at. Health is entirely free in West Bengal for government hospitals. You know, PG Hospital is one of the leading hospitals in India. Entirely free. Medicine is free, everything is free. Plus if there are medicines which are not available, there's a fair price shop system of the private sector in the hospital, where they have a benchmark of what is it that we can. Now again, that entire process can be digitized in terms of patient care. And of course there's a privacy issue. There are certain dangers to public data being made into any kind of public domain. So what we are looking at is education, again is an area. We haven't yet because the technology is still evolving. We will look at agriculture. West Bengal is intensive in agriculture, highest population density in India. 4 crops are not unusual, but we need soil testing to very high level technology which is available in the artificial intelligence case. So aside from data from agriculture, for example, mutation is a huge problem in terms of data management. You can buy a piece of land and 3 different people come and claim that same piece of land. Digitize it, got over it. 100% digitization in mutation is happening. Next we'll have to go to conversion also of land from one use to another, digitally. In agriculture itself, we would want to look at, from the satellite imaging processes using artificial intelligence, better predictability of that, etc. So we have people-centric applications of blockchain. It's your job in the private sector to do that. It's our job in the public domain to do that. And see where we can pick it. And many of these technologies are not ready really. So we'll have to work on it.
Yeah, please introduce yourself.
Yeah. So, sir, my name is Nitin Khanna, CFO for Inorbit Malls. So normally from a finance community, we have, strategies on which, yeah. So being from a finance community, we always have strategies to work on. So if I have to ask you, what are your top 5, strategic intents from, more from a digital perspective in say next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think it's a tough question because the technology itself is changing very rapidly. So any strategies you have tomorrow becomes irrelevant. I mean, when we started digitization, it was new. Now you've got into blockchain, which is a totally new way of looking at, an advanced way of looking at the same digitization process. So overall, our goal as we see it is, first, people centricity in technology. This cannot be left out. The other is to bring technology to the grassroots level. I gave you the example of the panchayats. Unbanked panchayats were many. Within 5 kilometers there was no bank. So we've offered the brick and mortar and they brought the technological requirement. Now, Mukesh Ambani came to Bengal Global Business Summit this year in January, and he said that they've invested something close to 15,000 crores. They have no manufacturing here, they have no refining here. Where did this money go? Essentially laying fiber, optical fiber, right up to the last mile. So government is also, BSNL has fiber, they are also laying fiber. Now why that last mile interests us, that last mile is of public interest. And if they allow carriage way on that last mile, right of way, others can also use it. It's not useful for them only to themselves use with Jio or whatever. They'll have to make money by allowing others to ride on it. So the first is we must have technology which affects positively the common people. The second is digital divide. It is not we talk about digital dividend. It can also become a digital deficit because of the widening gap. So we are looking at how to address that to the grassroots level. Third is to take best practices. Best practices themselves are elusive because they are constantly changing. So we search for best practices. I was going to give you the example of the Punjab minister. He came to look at our e-model in excise, which is liquor. They were going to adopt a program. Now, I never took him to the media because, it looks bad. He has come to learn from us. It's not a good thing. He went back and he gave a press conference from Chandigarh saying we will fully adopt the West Bengal's e-based process in the liquor trade. It's completely e-based. We have not taken over the private sector. We've only taken over the warehousing. And it's completely digitized. So every retailer uplinks their demand of whatever brand they need 10 days in advance. It goes into the government warehouse and it's delivered. So its entire thing is transparent. Punjab decided to adopt that. So now therefore we became best practice in that case. But we have taken some best practices from Karnataka in taxation, where I sent officers, they sat there for 15 days and learned. So third is best practices. The other, of course, very important thing is issues of privacy. You said cyber security. This started because somebody put something on the net and then it created a huge hullabaloo. We've got the most sophisticated team, may not be state of the art, but good enough for a cyber security process. If we are going to do these other things, it cannot be insecure. And the last point I would make is that international best practices we are looking at. That is why we had a quantum computing workshop last month. The Additional Chief Secretary came and spoke with you. He happens to be a physicist by training. So he has a special bug on this. So I said, don't call me to quantum computing. I can't spend 3 hours on that. But I will spend some time on blockchain. Why? I see blockchain having much immediate applications in the public domain. Probably. So the last is to take the best practices in the world, get the best people in the world to come and talk to us and learn from them as to what is going on. But I must tell you that all this has to be taken with great caution. So I want to tell you what Elon Musk says. What does he say? We are summoning the demon about artificial intelligence. He says AI goes rogue, then what happens? This is the guy who's the most technology oriented, is going to Mars. That's his ambition, not electric cars. He says AI running amok, it's possible. AI could wipe out humanity. I'm not saying this. A Harvard professor has written a book which he refers to often on the dangers of AI. And what makes me very worried is ASI, Artificial Super Intelligence. You know what that does? Can understand human thoughts and emotions affecting human behavior. You know what that means? If you have a robot which does this ASI, and you're thinking in your mind, this robot is getting too much, I'm going to switch it off. The robot knows it. It'll kill you. By that time it would have taken its own life. It would know that you are trying to switch off. This is a very interesting example where, singularity we talk about now, where the machine will be superior to the human. Here's an example where if ASI happens, where twitch of your muscles, your heartbeat, your blood pressure, everything is going into a computer system, massive big data, and that big data gets analyzed and says this is what you're thinking and this is what you're going to do, and you lose control of that. Have any of you seen the film called The Circle? Nobody has seen. Please see this Hollywood film called The Circle. I asked somebody in a big conference this question, and one of them said, I've seen it, and I said, what was your reaction? He said, frightening. And The Circle is nowhere close to Elon Musk. It shows you how from a private entity on technology, You grow and grow. And then final discussion is, how do you take off democracies in X country and Y country? Now only yesterday I think the question came up on Marriott database being hacked.
Yeah, Starboard database.
What happens with the Russians, with the United States? The Chinese hacked into our Prime Minister's office in the last government. It hacked into the NSA's computer, National Security Advisor's computer. There is I don't know how many of you have been to China, how many times. I used to go to China all the time. There is a small town, when we were passing, I asked my colleague, Atul Dalakoti, who's Mandarin speaking, was there, age of 12. I said, interesting town. So we are not going to stop here. I said, this is the hackers' town. A whole town which is specialized of young people who only live there, and all they do is, it's like Silicon Valley of hackers. So what happens to this in the future? So while we adopt them, are we mature enough as a civilization to understand its limitations and to what degree we can go? The Chinese have just discovered some genetic issues. Today there's big criticism that it's uncontrolled and unregulated genetic changes. So my submission is people centricity, answer to your question, remembering that there has to be some regulatory structures mutually agreed on a consensus basis, which prevents the technology from eating us. Technology is meant for us, but it can reverse itself and start eating our civilization and our ethics and many other processes. Thank you.
I've one last one. Do you have that? Last one? Do you want to cover? Last one. Quick question. Yes.
This is Vijay from Capgemini, Bangalore. So my question to you is, how is government and the automobile industry collaborating to bring in better traffic management system? Traffic management system.
Yes.
Because the biggest challenge, what as a commuter I see, is that the industry wants to sell more cars and more bikes, but whereas the government building infrastructure.
I think that's one of the areas, sir, that we will be attempting to apply blockchain as a possibility in traffic management. The other side of it, the traffic management volumes in terms of discovering patterns, would be artificial intelligence.
Especially infrastructures.
Yes, I think we are interested in that, but we have to find best practice. Mercedes-Benz is a company which only does traffic flow, which it wanted to do in Delhi when they came to me 10 years ago when I was on the other side of the table. So we are very interested in that, but we must find the best practices, the right companies to be able to do it, who have already a track record of doing it using advanced technology or emerging technology. It's a very important area for Kolkata. But as you see, the number of flyovers and bypasses and so on we are building, it has eased. How much time does it take from airport to this place?
It took 1 hour 30 minutes when we came.
It should not have. Is that the common experience? I thought it's much faster. What is the common experience?
1 hour.
45 minutes? Now, which city? I once remember that Azim Premji called me and said, he's a good friend, he said, Amit, please come, I have this whole Japanese coming here from Japan to the Wipro campus. You have to come and talk to them, because as you heard from the introduction, I have some connection with Japan. I started and I couldn't reach there. The Japanese couldn't reach there. So Azim Premji was sitting and waiting in Bangalore. So those are the problems which we should not have repeated. Thank you.
Dr. Mitra, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Mitra, thank you very, very much for joining us in conversation, and of course with your expert views and information there. Anant, could we please request you to please extend our little token of gratitude to sir for joining us here, enlightening us. Such a learned figure, ladies and gentlemen. Please give it up for the man of the moment, Honorable Mr. Amit Mitra ji.